All right, we're going to finish 3-2 just to go over a few things. And behavior, you're looking at the degree and the leading coefficient of the first term. Keep in mind it should be written in standard form. It must be written in standard form. So if you have one that's not written in standard form, you need to change the order. Write it in standard form and look at the degree and the leading coefficient for the end behavior. Second things we went over zeros. We should know how to solve for the zeros, and multiplicity. A lot of people are getting confused on multiplicity. Remember, if my multiplicity is an even number, it's a bounce. If it's an odd amount of multiplicities, it's a cross. So anytime you see it says cross, just draw a line straight through the zeros that you had. Okay, and then bounce, I would say wait until you see your end behavior to graph the bounce, because you don't know if it's on the top or on the bottom. Okay, those were just strategies. Okay, so here again is an example. Multiplicity of 1, it's odd. It crosses your x-axis, so I just put the line through, and then I did whatever else I have to do. Okay, if it's given to you in this format, okay, keep in mind you have to solve for your zeros, but the ones we're going to do today, they're already given to you in factored form, so I don't necessarily have to factor this. But let's go ahead and do number 4. This is very similar to what we did last class, so we're just going to go over it, and then we're going to get into the ones that were already factored. So first thing I have to do is I'm going to find my zeros. Okay, so I'm going to find my zeros looking at this one. That's the first step I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and first find my possible roots. Okay, that means I have to take the term of the last and the leading coefficient of my first, which is 1. Okay, keep in mind all my possible answers are going to be positive and negative. So in this case, factors of 20, I don't have to write it over 1 because it's going to give me a whole number. I'm going to have 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. Please make sure you know how to write out all possible roots. It will be all of those. Keep in mind they're all positive and negative. Now let me go ahead and use synthetic division to see which one works. So starting with 1, taking my coefficients, I have -1, -8, -11, and a positive 20. Okay, every term is accounted for. Bring down that -1. -1 times -1, or -1 times +1 is -1. I'm going to get -9 after I add. Keep that -9. I'm going to end up with -20. And then subtracting or adding, I'm going to end up with 0. So 1 is a possible 0. I'm going to have x equals 1. That's one of my answers. And then I have to factor it. I have -x squared minus 9x minus 20. Do I have a greatest common factor here? I'm going to factor out a -1. Okay, because I have a negative, I'm going to factor out that negative because I don't want a negative here. So I'm going to have x squared plus 9 plus 20. And now I'm going to go ahead and factor it. What multiplies to give me 20 and adds to give me 9? 5 and 4. So I'm going to have x plus 5 and x plus 4. Don't forget, finding those zeros, set them both equal to 0. X plus 5 equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0. And solving for x. So subtracting 5 from both sides, I'm going to end up with x equals -5. And subtracting 4 from both sides, I'm going to end up with x equals -4. So these are my other zeros. And how many should I have in the end? 3 because of my exponent. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and write those on here for my zeros. Okay, let me zoom out a little. I'm going to have x equals 1, x equals -4, and x equals -5. So first thing I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go ahead and put those points on my graph. So placing those points, I'm going to go ahead and put it on +1, -4, and -5. Now, looking at it, what is my multiplicity of each 0? Okay, good. They all have a multiplicity of 1. Nothing is repeating here. So all have a multiplicity of 1. And because the multiplicity is 1, what is that telling me about my behavior? Is it going to be a bounce or a cross? It's going to be a cross. Keep in mind 1 is an odd number. So because it's odd, it's a cross. And all I have to do is draw those crosses. It's going to cross the x-axis. So that's what I have right now. Keep in mind you could have multiple behaviors if you have different multiplicities depending on what you have, and you're going to see those in the next few examples. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at it, and I am going to find my end behavior. I'm going to look at that leading coefficient or that leading term, and looking at it, my exponent, my degree, is it even or odd? It's odd, so that tells me they're opposite directions. Now, was my leading coefficient positive or negative? It's negative. I see that negative sign, so it's opposite directions and negative. Now, direction-wise, it's going to go up, down. So I'm going to go up and down. I'm not done yet. I have to find one more thing and then I could finish the graph. I have to find my y-intercept. This one's pretty easy to find my y-intercept. What would my y-intercept be? 0, 20, because of that 20 right here. Keep in mind you're just plugging in 0 for all your x's. And you're going to get 0, 20 in the end. So going ahead and graphing that, so I'm going to go by 10s, or we could go by 5s to spread it out. I'm going to do it in black so we could see it. 5, 10, 15, 20, and then this is what the graph would look like. Going ahead and connecting everything, keep in mind there's a dot right here on 20, and I have to make sure I pass through that 20 to the other side. Okay, so this is what you should have, and that is what your graph should look like. All right, looking at the next example. Okay, we're still doing the same thing. However, it's already factored for us. I have to go ahead and find my zeros. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is find my zeros. So writing it out. I have negative x minus 3 squared times x minus 1 times x plus 1 squared. I don't like that negative in front, so I'm going to take it out by dividing by 1. And now I'm going to have x minus 3 squared times x minus 1 times x plus 1 squared. And now I have to set them all equal to 0. I'm going to go ahead and do it on this side. I have x minus 3 squared equals 0. Keep in mind, we should know that this could be written as x minus 3 times x minus 3. So I'm going to set both of them equal to 0. Then I'm going to have x minus 1 equal to 0. And same thing, I'm going to have x plus 1 squared equal to 0. And again, I could rewrite this as x plus 1 times x plus 1. So again, this is also a way to determine our multiplicity. I'm going to get x equals 3, x equals 3, x equals 1, x equals negative 1, x equals negative 1. Okay, those are all my zeros. How many zeros do I have in total? 5. Okay, so for x equals 3, I have a multiplicity of what? Good. X equals 1, multiplicity of what? Good. And then x minus 1, I have a multiplicity of? Perfect. Okay, so now I already know my zeros and my multiplicity. Pay attention to how I'm writing it so you write it correctly. I'm going to kind of zoom out. I know it's small at the top. Looking at it, my zeros, you only have to write them once. So I'm going to have x equals 3, x equals 1, and x equals -1. Okay, now how am I going to write my multiplicity for each zero? Keep in mind, I have some that are different. So I'm going to write it as 3 has a multiplicity of 2. 1 has a multiplicity of 1, and then -1 has a multiplicity of 2 as well. Okay, so now I'm going to have bounces and crosses. I'm going to have both. Why am I going to have both? Because I have an even and an odd amount. So you can go ahead and right now put your dots on 3, 1, and -1. Okay, that's pretty easy. We could just go ahead and put our dots on. Now I have to determine what's a bounce and a cross. Okay, this is the part I really need you guys to pay attention to because it's going to be a little different. So because 3 has a multiplicity of 2, is it a bounce or a cross? It's a bounce. Now, I don't know which direction I'm bouncing in yet, so I'm not going to draw it as of yet. 1, is it going to be a bounce or a cross? It's a cross. I can go ahead and draw that cross because it's just going to cross at 1. And then -1, is it a bounce or a cross? Bounce. Okay, now in order for me to draw those bounces, I have to find my end behavior. So let's go ahead and look at our end behavior. Okay, remember it has to deal with your degree. How many zeros did I have? 5. I have 5 zeros. So my highest degree is 5. Is that even or odd? Odd. So right now I know I have an odd. Let me do this in blue. And then my leading coefficient, is it positive or negative? Negative. So I have an odd negative. So that's telling me again what direction my end behavior goes in. So odd means it goes in opposite directions, and negative is telling me it goes up and down. Up first and then down. Okay, so I can go ahead and graph those, and then I can graph my behavior at x-intercept, or at the x-axis. So it's going to go up, drawing that arrow, and then down. Okay, and then I could draw my bounces. It's going to bounce at +3. So there's my bounce. And then it's going to bounce at -1. There's my other bounce. That's what my bounces look like.
How do you know what it's supposed to bounce at?
Okay, how do I know where it's supposed to bounce? Because of those multiplicities. So 3 has a multiplicity of 2. That means it's going to bounce at 3. Keep in mind the direction's going this way. So it's going to bounce on that x-axis at 3. And then -1 has a multiplicity of 2. It's going to bounce at -1. So that's kind of a gist on what it should look like because of the bounces. And then 1 is going to have a cross. So the last thing we have to do is find our y-intercept. Okay, so looking at our y-intercept, I can't just look at this one and tell. For this one, I have to plug in. So what am I plugging in order to find that y-intercept? 0. I have f of 0 equals -0 minus 3 squared times 0 minus 1 times 0 plus 1 squared. And I'm just solving this. This should be pretty easy. Okay, they're small numbers. So I'm going to have -3 squared times -1 times 1 squared. I'm going to have -9 times -1 times 1. These two multiply. I'm going to get -9 times -1, which is just going to give me a +9. So 0, 9. and then putting that on my y-axis. So I'm going to go by 3s on my y-axis just so we can find it. I have 3, 6, 9. Putting a dot at that 9, and then just connecting everything. Let me do it in a different color. I'll do it in the purple that we have. Going through that 9, and then these just connect. So this is what your graph should look like. These are all the answers that you should have. Keep in mind it's bouncing at 3, and it's bouncing at -1, and it's crossing through +1. All right, looking at the last example, same process. Find your zeros, find that multiplicity behavior at the x-axis, the end behavior, and then you could do your y-intercept. Or you can go in whichever order you want, but that's kind of how the order I go in. So first thing I'm going to do is find those zeros. I have -x minus 2 squared times x minus 3 squared. I don't want that negative there, so I'm going to take it out. I'm going to have x minus 2 squared times x minus 3 squared. And finding those zeros, x minus 2 times x minus 2, set it equal to 0. I'm going to get x equals +2 and x equals, oh, you know what? I got my signs wrong. This should be x plus 2. X plus 2. And then this is going to be a -2. My mistake. Okay. So because I have 2x minus 2's, I have a multiplicity of 2. And then let me go ahead and do that 3. I have x minus 3 times x minus 3. Again, setting both of them equal to 0. I'm going to end up with x equals +3. X equals +3. And this has a multiplicity of 2. Okay, so my zeros in the end, I have 2 zeros, okay, because I don't have to write them twice. So my zeros are going to be x equals 2 or -2 and x equals 3. And I have all have a multiplicity of 2. Okay, so what is that telling me? Is it a bounce or a cross? They're both going to have a bounce. Okay, so just by answering the zeros, that already gave me 3 answers. So, graphing it, I'm going to put a dot on -2 and a dot on +3. And they're going to be a bounce. I'm not going to do my bounce yet because I don't know where it bounces. Let me go ahead and find that end behavior. So looking at the end behavior, how many zeros did I have? It's not 2, it's 4. Okay, so if you're looking up top, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4. So looking at it, is my exponent even or odd? So I have an even. And is my leading coefficient positive or negative? Negative. So because it's even, are they in the same direction or opposite directions? They're in the same direction, and because it's negative, which direction is that? Down. They're both going down, so that should be pretty easy. Going ahead and just drawing those arrows down. And now I can go ahead and draw that bounce. There was a bounce. So if it's bouncing, it's going to look something like this. And bouncing, it's going to look something like this. All right, finding the y-intercept. Same thing for this one. All I have to do is plug in 0 for x's. So I have f of 0 equals -0 plus 2 squared times 0 minus 3 squared. And then solving this, I'm going to have -2 squared. I could just write it like this. times negative 3 squared. I'm going to get negative 4 times 9, which gives me negative 36. So 0, negative 36. It's fine. We're going to go by nines. I'm going to have negative 9, negative 18, negative 27, negative 36. Putting my dot at that negative 36, and then all I have to do on my graph is make sure it passes through that dot. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, and this is what your answer should look like.